Many things happened during the next 20 years, both good and bad, but these Christians never wavered off their path, nor complained or gave up. Their biggest test was to come. They stayed the course and handled it with their faith in God for the glory of God. During Sturkey's term, the yearly income was bigger than it had been in years, with many gifts given to the church. During Philip's pastorate, he baptized over 50 people. The mortgage was paid, missions met their quota, and the church and parsonage were in good shape. He started Wednesday night prayer meetings called Faith, Food, and Fellowship, open to all. At some time during these years, apparently not everyone was happy. Several officers resigned their post. He had to remind them a couple of times that there should be more we and less they in the church body. There was need for more cooperation and less personalities. The centennial celebration was a 3-day affair. The pageant was written and directed by Mrs. Phillips. After church service, a lunch was served with a program following and a supper served for those out-of-towners who were invited for the festivities.
Chloe Farrell's husband, Bill, he was our janitor, and they lived across the street, across that little street where the fire station is. Jackson, he came across the street to fire it up the church because it was a ladies' aid that day, so he was heating it up. But the fire started, and of course Warrenville had no fire department, so they had to call Naperville. We fortunately had a outside spigot, so we had a bucket brigade from our spigot to the church, back and forth across the street, plus our roof, because our roof started on fire. But my mother was all shook up because it was 2 trees in front were burning, so the house was next to be starting to burn. So the fire brigade took water to church, and someone on our roof, someone on the church. And so we had to start hauling things out of the house. First thing that went over to Bowig's was the bird, because he couldn't die, you see. The rest of us, it was okay. So she took that over and started gradually taking clothes and important things over there. And then in the evening, the fire settled down. My dad was home, came home in the Roanoke, and so everybody went to bed peaceful. During the night, it started in again. And of course, they had, like I say, no fire department. Naperville had come over. And at the nighttime, I don't remember if Naperville came back or if it was just the local people that kept trying to put it out themselves. But then finally it did burn down completely. But then it was kind of fun because all the kids got to play in that empty basement because there was a stairs from outside going down to the basement. So the kids, we had lots of fun playing down there in that mess.
Well, my memories of the old Baptist church here go back quite a few years. These folks had moved to Warrenville in 1926, and while my mother and father, I don't believe, ever went to church, they did supply the Christmas tree, and that went on for years and years. And after my parents died, my sister carried on the tradition for a number of years after that. And in the late 1920s, in the old Baptist church on Batavia Road, Mr. Holenza, Gottlieb was his first name, they called him Gatto, and he thought that classes in gymnastics would attract some of the younger folks and they might join the Sunday school group. And from the H-shaped horizontal bar, we would do our pull-ups and lots of other actions under the supervision of Mr. Holenza. And then quite a few kids got involved in that, so evidently his idea of what would attract some to the church basement was a very valid supposition. The stage in the old church was used to produce plays, and of course it was actually the only large enough stage and seating capacity, that all things that were of public interest would be conducted in the church itself. But the stage was used to produce plays which were directed by one of the local residents, and I cannot recall the name of the lady, but she was very, very patient with a bunch of not so good actors. And the receipts from the sale of the tickets went to the church. And my brother Jim and I were always part of them.
The year of planning for a new building.
While the main portion of the new church was built by professionals, the concrete floor of this new church was installed by lesser qualified people. Harry Deacon Rice was a master of the trowel, and the mixed concrete was prepared in an old electric-powered mixer. I forget what the capacity of it was, but Bill Farrell, my brother Jim, and I fed the ingredients, sand, gravel, and cement, and water into the mixer by the shovelfuls. And with a wheelbarrow, we delivered it to the interior of the building where Harry Rice took over. Years later, William Wallace made the observation that the good Lord must have been watching out for us as we for the installers, because there's not a single crack in the finished floor.
It was 2 years to date that the new church was dedicated and being used. Reverend Frerick stated that his objective for the first year was to get to know the members and to stimulate the inactive members, conduct a membership campaign, and impress the importance of Christian living. The membership rose each year. In his detailed reports, he conducted many calls, reported on meetings he attended, each year taught vacation Bible class, and taught at camp in Lake Geneva. He edited and circulated the church's monthly newsletter, which by now was reaching 150 homes. He conducted many baby dedications, weddings, and funerals. The officers and members of the church felt his work was very satisfactory and most gratifying. Reverend Grimes was very much interested in the youth of the church. He felt the greatest need of the church at that moment was to start a youth program. He started a midweek church service of Bible study groups and fellowship dinners. In order for the church to grow, he encouraged members to pass the word along regarding church services and also suggested cards be sent to church members and to the community with information about the service, extra programs and activities, and the sermon title for that week. He also liked the idea of more social activities that were nonprofit. In 1919, William Wallace became the Sunday school superintendent and served for 27 years in that office. He was also very active in other areas. He was moderator in 1926 and elected deacon in 1927. He held these offices simultaneously for many years. He also served as chairman on various committees. His love and devotion for God and this church shows his dedication to both. Within 10 years, the mortgage for the new church was paid. Reverend Anderson had a vision of the church which didn't materialize. His manner was very stern, abrupt, and uncompromising. He became an advisor instead of a leader. In his resignation letter, he stated that the deacons asked him to resign. He felt that his dreams had not been realized in the short year he was here. In Reverend Johnson's time here, the membership was 178. The daily vacation Bible school had 90 registered students, and 70 of them had perfect attendance. The Sunday school increased by 33%. In his last months, Reverend Johnson had to deal with a nest of mice in the old organ and pigeons in the bell tower. His last act was to plant a spruce tree in front of the church.